All right, folks. Sorry for the delay. Anytime you have someone in law enforcement that's going to be coming in live to the studio, sometimes work can call, and it did for Brad. So he's going to join us remotely now. The plan had been for him to join us in studio. Unfortunately, that's not going to work out right now. So we're just waiting for him to join. It ended up being about another 30 minutes out. So as soon as he gets in, we can start. I appreciate you guys holding on and watching. Again, sorry for the delay. But we are looking forward to having Brad Less, who is the Republican nominee for Shelby County Sheriff right here in Shelby County, Tennessee. Shelby County is, the largest by land and population county in the state of Tennessee. And the sheriff's department is one of the largest departments in Tennessee, I believe, with a little over 2,100 employees. Now that's, deputies, that's jailers, that's admin personnel. And the sheriff is somebody that will oversee all of those people. He'll put the correct people into place to oversee different areas, from patrol to narcotics to gang units, jail. All that stuff would fall underneath the sheriff. So we are looking forward to getting him in here as soon as he can. Appreciate you guys watching. This is a big election. The Shelby County Sheriff is something that's extremely important to safety in our communities. And you've really got to educate yourself on who you're voting for. Not voting for a political party, but voting for someone that aligns with your views on fighting crime. Right now, we have a sheriff that has basically said that, they want Shelby County to be a sanctuary city, that they don't want to help with illegal immigrants that are in jails. And, if that's not something you agree with, you should really look into Brad Less. I'll let him really speak on what his philosophies are, what he believes in. I'll let him do that when he gets here. And I really want you to get to know who he is. We've got a QR code on the upper corner. You can see it with his logo in there. If you scan that QR code, it will actually take you to his website where you can learn a lot more about him. You can volunteer, you can donate, and you can really learn more about him that you don't know here. You can order yard signs. You can do a lot of stuff. I've got one of his yard signs in front of my house. But, Brad Less, his thing is working together with the citizens of Shelby County for a safer community. And I think he's been going and proving that that's what he wants to do by going to events that not a lot of other people wanted to go to. The Republican primary for Shelby County Sheriff was the only Republican primary that was contested. So Brad has already won one election. He won the primary vote for Shelby County Sheriff. And, he said he's signing in now, so he should be here in a minute. But that was a tough race between two very qualified men. And Brad did win. So the Republican Party is behind him, but we've got to get the Republican Party voting in this cycle. The Democrats definitely outvoted big time. They showed up in droves, which is normal for Shelby County and for Memphis in general. You're going to get a lot more Democrats voting. So make sure that you encourage other people to get out and vote. Early voting starts July 17th. So get out, vote early. Get it out of the way. July 17th, you can go to any polling station in Shelby County and you can vote. Now, keep in mind, if you vote on election day, you have to vote at your actual polling station. There are apps that you can look at. There's an app in Tennessee where you can put your name and address, and it'll actually tell you all the districts that you're in. It'll tell you where your polling station is, where you have to be, because they do change. I know I've been in the same address for 10 years and mine has changed multiple times. So what you don't want to do, which has happened to me before, is I showed up at a polling station that I believe was mine on voting day with about 10 minutes before polls closed, and I wasn't allowed to vote because I was at the wrong polling station. So make sure that you keep that in mind and you're checking and making sure you know where your polling station is. Or like I said, just vote early and you can go to any polling station in Shelby County. But another thing is, if you go to a polling station outside of where you're normally voting, make sure that you have the correct ballot. I have seen that, and I've heard stories from last election cycle where people said that they did not get the correct ballot, but once you vote and pass it, that's it. So we've got Brad here. We're going to bring him in now.
Hey,
Brad, welcome.
Trying to get my my computer set up here.
No worries, we got you. So
sorry about the delay.
No worries. We understand. I explain to people, as an active duty law enforcement officer, sometimes duty calls.
That's very much so.
And not just an active duty police officer. You're also sheriff's deputy. You're also in the Coast Guard Reserve, correct?
Yes, I am.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I joined in 2013 as a special agent with the United States Coast Guard Investigative Service. And ever since then, I am my deployments are a little unique. I go out on investigations, whether it's involving the internal aspects of the Coast Guard or cases that may involve harm to the United States or against federal code or UCMJ, cases like that. We're a unique agency. We have enlisted, we have civilian, and we have reserves. So there's three aspects of the Coast Guard Investigative Service, and I am one of 150 selected nationwide to do that job.
So for those that don't know, UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, it's kind of a different legal system that the military falls under. So you get to be a part of a select 150 people. Now, how often are you getting to work in that capacity?
It's basically when we're called up, we batch our drills. So we don't necessarily drill, 1 weekend a month, 2 weekends out of the year, 2 weeks out of the year. I try to do my cases if an office is, and we've got a large region. So we're D8, or what they call the Heartland District. It's about 13 states in the United States. So about the barrel of Florida, all the way across Texas and straight up to the Canadian border, the mouth of the Mississippi River. And we do have the payroll and processing center in Topeka, Kansas, where our payroll and processing and administrative offices are. No water around it whatsoever. So that makes a unique drive up there. But I've been the mouth of Mississippi, all throughout the Gulf and Texas, and we also support the border as well.
Now, I did kind of get into it a little bit with someone when you had mentioned that you were unavailable because you were doing a drill or an event with the Coast Guard. Someone had mentioned, how can this guy be sheriff if he's got to work with the Coast Guard? Which it's hard for me to believe that people are that dense, but they are. Tell us how, when you're elected sheriff, you'll be able to balance your work with the Coast Guard as well.
Oh, absolutely. I do it now. I don't take, and we don't take long deployments. They're available if you want to take them. But when I'm elected sheriff, it will be the first time that the Coast Guard's had an elected sheriff in the investigative service. So they're excited about it. I've already spoke to leadership. They're supporting, and it's not going to affect how we run Shelby County and how I run Shelby County as your next sheriff. And to be honest with you, the leadership capabilities that I've gotten in the military and the training and the courses that I've taken and the actual roles that I've supported has helped me to be a better leader with the sheriff's office. So when you're looking at all the different knowledge, I mean, we're protected under USERRA, so they can't do anything to me, and I'm not going to put the county in a position that's going to cause problems for myself or for the citizens. So, we're talking about 4 years to 8 years depending on the election cycle and how that works out, it's not going to affect the county.
And again, I'm joined by Brad Less, running for the Republican side of the Shelby County Sheriff. If you look in the upper right hand corner, you've got a QR code that'll take you directly to his website if you want to scan that, learn more. You can also ask questions here live. We're live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you're watching from. Give it a share, give it a like, comment, whatever you want. You can get some questions answered directly for the next sheriff of Shelby County. Now let's talk about Shelby County. Shelby County is the largest county in Tennessee by both size and population. So we're looking at over 900,000 people in Shelby County, a large demographic base, a place with a lot of industry and a lot of moving parts. It's a lot to think about. What are we at? 2,100 employees with the sheriff's department when it comes to deputies, it comes to reserves, jail staff, admin staff. That's a lot of people. Tell us about some of experiences you have that will let our viewers and the public know that you're someone that can lead something that large.
Well, when it comes to leading, you got to know what the problems are in order to know what direction to go. So let's talk about some of the problems that we're facing right now. So when you have leadership that is running employees away, we're bleeding them out faster than we can bring them in. We've got folks that are leaving the sheriff's office to go to other agencies that are paying less money. We have a jail that is unsafe for the employees, unsafe for the inmates that are there, the prisoners that are housed there, whether they're long-term waiting a trial or they're short-term because of whatever they had come in. We've got the patrol people that are out there every day, the patrol deputies they're just not feeling like they're supported. And they're not feeling that they have the backing of the sheriff's office when it comes to medical retirement, when it comes to going out and doing your job. And, as a leader, you have to take care of your people if you want them to stay. You have to make the job where it's not always going to be fun. It's not we don't have fun jobs. I mean, you're going to people's houses on their worst day. So you're seeing everybody's worst day multiple times a day. If you think about it, you don't call 911 to say hi. You call 911 because you got an emergency, or you're in jail because you are waiting to find out if you're guilty of the crime that you're accused of. You're waiting on your trial, or you're waiting to get your bond so you can get out of jail because you were caught doing something that we suspect that you did wrong. So when it comes to leadership and the sheriff's office and the employees, people don't leave a good job because of the work that they love. People leave a good job because of bad management, and it runs them away. And it's not just affecting the sheriff's office. I mean, this is affecting the Memphis Police Department, the Tennessee Highway Patrol. It's affecting Bartlett, Germantown, Collierville, Millington. Anybody that comes to 201 Poplar, what we have going on right now affects them. And I've heard from countless officers on the streets that the Sallyport, our intake area where we bring prisoners in, and I'm sorry, I use cop talk sometimes, so I have to explain what the Sallyport is. That's where an individual is brought in to be booked into the jail. And if that takes hours and I'm not talking an hour, I'm talking about hours, 4 hours plus, that takes those officers off the streets. And if you're halfway through your shift, you're not going to be so inclined to lock somebody up. You're not going to be so inclined to do your job. You're going to put those blinders on so you can get to your kid's ball game, or you can get to your little girl's play, or you can make date night with your wife, because every day should not be a overtime day. So, there's just a lot of things going on, and a big slap in the face today. I'll say this: a raise is always a good raise, but if it's 1% and you make $90-something thousand a year, 1% of 90,000, you're talking about $900 a year. It's not 1% a month. It's 1% of your base salary. That's $4 a pay period. That's $4 a pay period if you get paid twice a month. The deputies are looking at that like, wow, my taxes just went up on my house more than the raise. So now we're still losing money. which we're going to lose people.
I think to your point too, with my prior experience, if you're pulling somebody over and they've got a $1,000 warrant out for their arrest, there's no way that you're going to want to even bother to take them in, because you're going to sit at that Sally Port and processing for hours. Your leadership's probably going to say, cut them loose, let them go. We don't want you sitting at the Sally Port for 4 hours to put this person in. So people know that, hey, the cops aren't even arresting us for warrants right now because they don't have time to. So what's the point of getting these things worked out if the cops are never going to take you in?
It causes your crime rate to go up, because it's the little crimes that cause big crimes. It's what I can get away with today. So they know that. I mean, I watched a video, couldn't tell you if it was staged or not, but there was an MPD car with a guy doing a donut around it.
Just saw it recently.
You did. And that disgusts me, because nothing was done. Now, if that was a staged joke, they need to find the P number of that car and discipline that officer, because you just made the Memphis Police Department look like a joke. But I'm going to tell you, if it wasn't and you didn't do anything about it because your hands are tied, well, then we have to do some untying of some hands and get some law enforcement in this community, because they just made a mockery of that department. I can tell you right now, as your sheriff, that would not happen. And if
so
we just
go ahead. We just had your kickoff event Monday at the VFW here in Collierville, and just a really amazing turnout.
Yes,
I think it was extremely motivating for everybody there to see, Judge Joe Brown get up and talk so passionately for 15 minutes. And I got the opportunity to come up and talk, and I hadn't planned on it, but I had experiences that I wanted to talk about, and I want your viewpoint on this. I had mentioned that I was on a ride along with Shelby County Sheriff's Department, and I was in the front car, and there was another guy behind us. And we noticed a guy behind us has his lights on, and somebody comes on the wrong side of the road. We pull up. We try to pull him over as well. The guy speeds up. The officers turned their lights off, and we went to the gas station and got snacks. I said, we can't chase anybody. Oh, well. And my thought is, well, what message does that send to these people? That just sent a message to that guy that if I don't stop, there's nothing they're going to do. They told me that, we could maybe log his license plate, and if it's found again, we could tow the car, but you can't arrest them because you don't know who was in it. Right. You can't prove. And if they're running, there's usually a reason they're running from you. And we let them go. And what that does is that just spreads to everybody. Just like if you leave a bad review at a restaurant, it gets out to a bunch of people. Well, this is going to be a review of the sheriff's department, where somebody posts on their social media, man, I ran from the police today. They just turned their lights off and let me go. So that empowers more people to do it. What would you as sheriff do to change that?
Here's the thing, and I'll say this. The juice has to be worth the squeeze on the pursuit. Now, you got to let us do our job. And I'm not willing to discipline an officer for getting involved in a pursuit for trying to do his job. And that's what's happening right now. They get disciplined for doing their job. And it's very, very, very disheartening to the officer to know that, well, if I try, I mean, they were writing them up and disciplining them for trying to get into pursuit. But they don't have all the tools and the ability and knowledge to go after a criminal. I mean, there's ways that you can end and terminate some of these pursuits pretty quick. But the problem is, it's exactly what you said. What kind of image does it put out? Well, when I say juice worth the squeeze, I'm 50-50 on some of these pursuits. Now, if it's egregious enough and we need to try, then we try. If it's putting the public in danger, then we probably should call it off, because, you have children, you're riding in your car, there's a police pursuit because somebody didn't stop, and we can't determine what kind of criminal they are. Sometimes the juice is worth the squeeze to stop, or it's not worth the squeeze. I guess you could say that it's not worth the squeeze to keep going, because we don't have that car hit your car and kill your kids. And then you're looking at, well, why were they pursuing them? Well, we don't even know. We don't know why. They were running from the police, and we never got the opportunity to find out because they committed, the crime. But we've got to hold those people accountable too, that you run and you have a crash. I'm not disciplining the officer because you had the crash. I'm charging you with vehicular homicide. I'm charging you with first-degree murder. You made the decision to run and kill somebody and use a vehicle to do it. That's a weapon. So,
and we definitely like to see the follow-up with these people where we are capturing license plates and we are following up with detectives and and putting a bolo out for that vehicle and stopping by houses and letting people know that that's not going to fly anymore.
No. And we have to get the message out that lawlessness, not having good order and peace in your community, in our community, in my community, is not a good thing. Lawlessness will not be tolerated. You have to have good order and peace. And in order to do that, you have to have enforcers. And the enforcers of the police department, the sheriff's office, and other agencies that are out here. And that'll probably lead off into what we're going to do next after the Memphis Safe Task Force. I mean, you have to have good order and peace, and we did not have that. So I say this, was the Memphis Safe Task Force a good thing to get to the point that we were at? Absolutely not. It's a good thing. It is not a good thing. You had to be the most violent criminal city in the country, most violent crimes, to get that task force. It's because it was neglect. It was neglect and pure abuse of the judicial system. So, going from there, I'm glad they're here and I wish they could stay, but all good deployments, you're in the military, I'm in the military, deployments come to an end. Is there a plan in place? What are they going to do? I mean, here lately, it looks like they just put a horse unit together. Well, they're not riding horses in North Haven, and they're sure not bringing them down to Collierville and riding the streets there. So are we being good stewards of our tax dollars? Are we doing things that are, it builds morale for what the four guys that are running the horses? I mean, they're like loving their job because they don't have to do anything all day. They're not on the streets. They're petting their horses and making sure that they're taken care of and doing that kind of stuff. But we don't have these kind of events that we need to have horses on the road every day.
Now, one thing you'd mentioned is, you had to go to Arlington, and because that's where the sheriff's department is in Arlington. Yes. And when I went on a ride along, one of the things I noticed was I had to drive all the way to Arlington to get in the police car. Then we drove all the way to like Southwind area to patrol. So that was a 30-minute drive.
Yes.
Then we had to drive 30 more minutes at the end of the shift to get back to the station. So basically an hour was used just as transportation to their actual beat. Now, one thing that, coming from Los Angeles and LA County area is there's a lot of substations and there's a lot of areas. Would you think putting substations in some of these neighborhoods so that people can report, into the neighborhood and there could be potentially a faster response time from these substations? Is that something that you would consider doing?
Absolutely. And, I almost think a partnership with, a Memphis police precinct and maybe having some deputies report there and working out of the adjoining police precinct. You've got Austin P Station. Let's use that for example. Austin P runs a traffic unit. It's the special operations unit runs out of there for traffic in their regular patrol districts. Have your North End cars respond to Austin P for roll call and have a place there. Have the ability to have your citizens go there instead of Arlington to file a police report and have a county deputy meet them there to file the report without having to meet, somewhere. Well, they're in the city. They have to go meet someplace. Well, come all the way out to 385 and Highway 70 to the Arlington substation and go file your report there. That makes a lot of sense because that doesn't do any good for our citizens. So, there's always options. If people have ideas, I'm willing to listen. I want to hear what they have to say to what makes them safe.
So one of the biggest topics right now is the jail. What are your thoughts on the jail? Do you want a new one? Do we need to improve it? What is your thoughts, and what are you going to do once elected to fix the problem with the jail?
Well, let me say this. We have to do something right now to stop the bleeding. And there's some things that I want to put in front of county commission that we have to understand. How much money do you put on a life? How much does life cost? So regardless of what the person is accused of doing, how much does their life cost? Well, we've got a building that's failing with the air conditioner. Our fugitive guys right now don't have AC in their office. I was looking at chillers being brought in and big machines to try to pump cold air. Today in my office was hot. One day it's cold. There's no running water. There is running water. Things have to be done for a neglected building. And this was just severe abuse, total abuse. It was, we don't want to put money in it because we want to build something really nice and pretty in a place that nobody wants it to be built. I think that we can do a lot better with our tax dollars. All right. That seems to be a big problem right now with other commissioners being accused of not being good stewards of tax dollars. Let's let the sheriff set the example of being a good steward of tax dollars. Right across the street from 201 Poplar on the Washington side, you have two vacant buildings that are boarded up. On the other side, on Poplar side, you have rundown parking lots that haven't been paved since they bought them. They're riddled with potholes. There's no security. They're buildings that are boarded up. They're vacant, or they don't look like they've ever been occupied. We need to build a misdemeanor facility, a mental health facility, a new sheriff's command center, because our detectives are crammed into closet space. That's ridiculous. I mean, you have to fight over an interview room. There's one interview room. The conference room is in the interview room, so you really can't have a private conversation in there without it being recorded. So there's things that we can do better with our tax dollars. And 201 Poplar, moving that whole building at 1.7, 1.2, $1.7 billion is not feasible. You don't have that money. That's 10, 15 years down the road. We got to do something right now.
And like you said, we've had people dying in police custody. It's miserable. I went through the place myself, and we actually had, there was minors that were locked up in that facility, along with grown men. Obviously, they're segregated, but we were in the women's one. And so you had minor children, 16, 17-year-old violent offenders that were still locked up in a jail. And now, if there was only one of them, they got a whole housing unit to themselves. That's a waste, having all that taken up by one person. So, definitely, I think improving what we already have and getting that done is going to be the fastest way. Even if you got the money to build a new place, it's going to take 5 years.
I think it'll take less than 5 years. I mean, we don't need another study. We know how many people the current building holds. We know what the problem is. At least I do. I don't think anybody's ever thought about this. You've got the age of, I guess you could say, electronics have improved so much. Whether your cell phones, your computers, your tablets, your watches, everything can be dumped for information. And it takes a while to get that information back. So if you have a homicide trial back in the 70s and 80s, definitely doesn't take as long as it does to do one now with all the electronics, because you have to do a lot of explaining to people that are on the jury of why this person's guilty of a crime. And so when you're waiting 2 and 3 years for a trial date because our judges are backed up and our courts are backed up, they can only handle one trial a week. And then basically the judge has got to have a week off to just handle the regular stuff, or 2 weeks off to handle their regular things in office. I'd love to have Judge Lapone come on and explain why it takes so long to, and I'm a fan of Judge Lapone. I mean, he's had many years as a prosecutor, but he'll tell you why it takes so long, because they're not prepared. They're not reading their cases. The attorneys are joggling. People don't pay, and they're resetting cases. And it's taking 3 to 4 years to prosecute a homicide, and those people have to stay in jail. Well, that's taking up a space. Well, if you have over 300 homicides and we're at a 70 to 80% solve rate, which they are, if you look at the numbers, MPD was, most of them occurred in the city. And I know the county was pretty good on their solve rate of homicides, because most people know them. You know the person that you're involved with, that those people are sitting in jail for 3 years doing time in a short-term facility. It takes up space. And when you got 300 of them and you go based on the years that we've had, it's backed up. You've got 5 years of homicide cases. Of course, we're overpacked. It's not got anything to do with the Memphis Safe Task Force. It has something to do with the fact that they can't prosecute the cases fast enough.
And now you've got, someone that's in jail for a DUI or shoplifting sharing a room with murder suspects.
Right. And that's why I want a misdemeanor facility.
Yeah, and it's definitely a dangerous place, not just health wise, but I mean, people are getting killed and getting murdered in there because they're in with people with mental health issues, with serious felonies, and they know they're never getting out of jail, so they will they'll kill you for some commissary, they'll kill you for a sandwich, they don't care, and it
It's
puts a
every day.
burden on our deputies.
I can't tell you how many reports I've had of stabbings that occurred. And I say stabbings. I mean, if you're using a sharp object and you're putting a hole in somebody, it's stabbing.
Now
Simple as that.
we look at the Republican ticket, and people say, hey, Republicans can't win in Shelby County, but that's not the case
No.
for Shelby County with the sheriff's department. Uh, you know, Before our current sheriff, we had two Republican sheriffs
Yes.
that served 2 terms each, so they were elected and they did win.
Yes.
We've had Shelby County. Mark Luttrell was not only the Shelby County sheriff, he was also the Shelby County mayor, and made a big impact. And now he's in charge of the election commission.
Right.
So Republicans can win in Shelby County. This is not a Democrat is going to win and it's the Democrat stronghold. No, Republicans can win in Shelby County, and they've done a great job. So what do we need to do to drive Republicans and drive people to the polls, to not just look at a letter next to your name? We've got to get Democrats, because obviously there are more Democrats in Shelby County. We've got to get them to cross over and say, I'm not voting party line. I'm voting for the best option, and Brad Less is the best option. How do we get that message out?
You got to spread the word. I mean, you tell 10 people who tell 10 people who tell 10 people. And if you're not happy with what you got right now, you're not going to be happy with your future. So the definition of insanity is, let's just keep voting the same thing in and hoping for a better outcome. And look, this is why we have the forms of government that we have. When things don't go right in the presidency, what do? We vote a different president in, and you vote a Republican or you vote a Democrat or whatever it is. It balances itself out. But if we strictly continue to vote Democrat and not cross over and not look at the person, then you find that you have somebody that's not qualified for the position. I mean, I can give you the title of chief deputy. I can give you the title of sheriff. That doesn't mean you're qualified. That doesn't mean you understand what's going on. And if you're in a position of authority, which, let's talk about me. I'm a lieutenant, okay? I'm in middle management. I make suggestions all the time. And my suggestions sometimes fall on deaf ears, or sometimes they go, that's a great idea. I have to wait on somebody else to implement that. I've got to put somebody else in charge to do that. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, we have submitted great ideas. They've fallen on deaf ears. I have been parts of boards like let me give you an example, uniform board. It took them all the way up to the chief deputy almost 2 years just to sign off on a hat, a simple ball cap. I mean, our deputies are uncomfortable. I mean, a hat's important, and I'll tell you why real quick, just to give you a simple idea of why they wanted this, is because we have 110-degree days with the sun beating down on your head on a traffic. You're outside directing traffic, and the citizens want somebody directing traffic at a down traffic light. Somebody hits a telephone pole, knocks the light out, and you don't see the officer standing out there. What's the first thing that people say? Where's the police officer? Where's the deputy? Nobody's directing traffic. We're just sitting there staring at each other. Where do we go? What do we do? We're honking at each other. Hey, get out of the road. We can't move disabled vehicles. We don't have tow trucks on our police cars. So, if we think about it, it makes sense. A ball cap, keep the rain off their head. Keep it out of their eyes in case they have to pull a firearm. Keep the sun off their head in case you got that little spot like I don't have here, a nice little spot. I don't have that. I got a full head of hair. But I got some deputies out there that are bald, and you sitting out there with the sun beating on your head and you got no cover. The only option was to wear the bus driver hat, and let's just not get our guys made fun of. I mean, it's not.
Well, it's obviously miserably hot too to have that on. That's not meant for long-term wear in 100-degree weather like it is today.
That's a parade hat. That's your military Class A hat. Class A style hat is not your everyday wear, but it took forever to make that decision. Why? If you don't have the power, the ability, and the blessing of the man that's elected to do your job, then you don't need to be there. You need to go, this is what I'm doing, and I'm the chief deputy. And that doesn't happen. And then we get bottlenecks and bottlenecks of decisions made because I get the excuse, well, I got a boss. You are the boss. You are the boss. So if you can't make the decision or you don't want to make the decision because you're afraid of what the sheriff's going to say, you don't need to be there. I'm going to put a chief deputy in a position that I'm going to be like, hey, you got my blessing. Make the decision. Make this work. Don't make us look silly on the street. Make our guys happy. Back our people.
Now, one thing to keep in mind is, just last election cycle when Bonner ran for sheriff the first time, he ran against who is now the current chief of police in Collierville. Yeah. And Bonner won, and Dale Lane ended up coming to Collierville and took over here. And Chief Lane is recognized as probably one of the most respected law enforcement officers in the entire country. Absolutely. So the sheriff's department has some phenomenal leaders and some phenomenal people, but people didn't vote him in based on party affiliation.
Yep.
And the results are clear. He came over and took over Collierville. Now, Collierville's not Memphis, and it wasn't the most dangerous place in the world, but he definitely transformed this police department and transformed this town. And that's what a Republican can do in Shelby County. That's what you can do with your values and your training and your 30-plus years experience from this department. That's something that you can do, and you're excited to do it, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm knowledgeable. Let's talk about my career a little bit, just so you can get the understanding of what Brad Less has done. Okay. A lot of people don't know who I am and where I'm from. A lot of people do. So when I started my career, I started it as a PST in 1995. Immediately, I was receiving letters of commendation. There was an accident involving a member of the Christian Brothers high school faculty. His daughter was involved in a crash. I handled that scene with utmost respect for the citizen and made sure that she knew that she could communicate with her father, get everything done. And he wrote an excellent letter, which I still have today, on how my ability to communicate with the citizen to understand it's going to be okay. You've been in a bad crash. We're going to fix it. She hit a lawnmower that fell off a truck on Walnut Grove at 50 miles an hour. So it scared her. And we made sure that me and my partner both made sure that she was taken care of as if it were our daughters that were there. That's how I think. Moving on in my career, I went through the fugitive squad. I went after the worst of the worst. I said, if I'm going to get hurt, or the ability to get hurt at this job, I'm not going to get hurt pulling somebody over because they didn't write a good check, because they didn't have money in their bank account and they couldn't balance their budget. Even though those are arrests, and we did process those warrants, I prioritized the most violent first. And when I picked those up, then I went after the lesser violent criminals, because those folks are going to get picked up eventually on traffic stops and things like that. They'll turn themselves in. All you got to do is send them a letter. They're good people. They just can't balance their checkbook. So going after murderers, rapers, and robbers on the midnight shift, I kicked in a lot of doors, and we took some, $1 billion worth of bond revocations up because those people were let out of jail. They're violent. And we took them and put them back in the jail. And then moving on to that, I went to the United States Secret Service as a task force officer. I worked on the District Attorney General's office in public corruption and economic crimes. And that's where the public corruption side of me comes out, going, hey, we got a problem with people stealing money. It's not just one. Now we got more that are coming down the pipe. And look, yeah, you're innocent until proven guilty in court. But the federal government's coming after you. They're coming after you for a reason. They're not just coming after you because of who you are. They're coming after you because you violated the law. So you'll answer to that in court. But when it comes down to my career,
I want to emphasize how good the sheriff's deputies in Shelby County are. They do face a lot of adversity. They have a big area to travel. There's a lot of crime. So these guys are very well, and they're very adapted in law enforcement. And I heard a statistic, and I couldn't believe this, that they got body cameras, and there was only 30 complaints one year out of the whole department, only 30 citizen complaints. 28 of them were dismissed because of evidence on body cameras that prove that these guys did nothing wrong. So 2,000 people, there was really only about 2 sustained complaints in an entire year for our sheriff's deputies, which I'm going to be honest with you, that's mind blowing. And it was funny. One of the stories was a woman filed a complaint and said that a deputy called her a fat pig. And they went back and they watched the body cam footage, and the woman, who had been large, had lost a bunch of weight, but her picture in her ID was her pre-weight loss picture. And all the deputy did was said, "Ma'am, is this you in this picture?" And she said yes. And she called and said and filed a complaint that could have gotten this officer in trouble, that he called her a fat pig when he didn't. And the body camera proved that it didn't. Body cameras have been a big thing. You know, BLM was asking for them. And I think body cameras are proving time and time again that the officers are the ones telling the truth, that there's a lot of lies about officers. And we actually got to see a demonstration in the Citizens Academy that I went to where supervisors can actually watch the cameras live. They can talk to the officers.
To a certain extent,
that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I support the body cameras. I mean, a body camera is your safety net for a citizen that's going to be deceptive. Citizens are going to lie. They're going to tell you that, you know, what they want, what they think is going to be in their mind is, I'm going to tell this story and I'm going to get you fired. So, you know, we've got the body camera. You're sitting right here. Our sergeants are wearing them because they're the ones that are going to be your first line supervisor to take the complaint. I'm 100% for the body cameras, and I think they were going to get you out of more complaints than if, you know, you can't stop people from being people. I mean, so you got bad doctors, you got bad lawyers, you got bad teachers, you got bad clergy, and they get arrested. So when you add 2,900 officers or 2,000 in a city or in a county, whether it be the Memphis Police Department or whatever, you're going to find somebody that's not following the rules and you'll discipline them. We typically don't have that because we have training, but every now and then you get somebody that does something on their own and they thought it was a great idea, and the body camera has basically told them it's a bad idea. They get disciplined or they get terminated. Well, that's a decision that they made. But for the most part, the body cameras will keep you out of trouble. Now, if you violate the policy and you turn your body camera off because you plan on doing something that's against the rules, you're going to be dealt with. Absolutely, you're going to be dealt with. And our policies, my policy will be very strict on that. You're going to have integrity. You're going to have accountability. And you're going to be pretty much 100% held to do your job the way that you're trained to do it. And if you deviate from that, we don't need you. We don't need you. You don't need to be here.
If you're just joining me, we have Republican nominee for Shelby County Sheriff Brad Less joining us. If you click on the QR code with his logo on the upper right-hand corner, it'll take you directly to his website. You can find out more information, get request yard signs. I've got one in front of my house. You can volunteer for his campaign. You can donate.
Please.
Now, I've run for public office. I know that it's difficult because it becomes a money game. And I remember talking to Chief Lane about that. And he said that was one of the worst parts of running for office, is having to go to rooms and convince people to give you money and not be a law enforcement officer, but kind of be a politician for a little while and beg people for money, because without money, you can't get your message out. How have you noticed that transition from going from law enforcement to actually having to be in politics?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard for me to ask people for money. That's just not my style. That's not who I am. So I put $50,000 of my own money into my campaign just because it was hard for me to ask. I have accepted donations, but I'm not a big corporate sponsored candidate. I don't have a lot of corporate donations coming to me. Everybody that's donated to me is grassroots people that are tired of the game. They're tired of this game that's being played on them, that they're in a city, a county. And it's just like you said, you don't leave Collierville. You try not to leave Collierville because you feel safe in Collierville. But understand this, Collierville sits in Shelby County. And that line in Collierville is not immune to violent crime coming across the borders. I mean, and you got to have a sheriff that understands that Germantown, Collierville, Bartlett, they put their officers at the borderlines and they work. But Shelby County, where's our borderlines? Our borderlines are at the Mississippi border, the Arkansas border, the North Tipton County, Fayette County borders. It all incorporates everything. We have to be all over the place, and we have to have good deputies on the roads. Currently, right now, I've talked with Arlington about not having full-time law enforcement up there. They don't have full-time deputies assigned up there. They got them, the equipment guy answers a call every now and then, but they're still, they have complaints that they're receiving, and they're having to rely on deputies that are coming from Germantown and 64, Germantown and Walnut Grove, and all the other areas, even to the Bartlett city limits, to try to get up there. They handle Lakeland. Lakeland doesn't have a set group of folks that are working up there. So we have to be everywhere in order to keep crime down. We are the sheriff's office. We are the law enforcement agency for Shelby County.
Now, you talked about money, and that's one thing that voters have to understand is you can go online and you can see a candidate's campaign financial disclosure. It's actually required to post it.
Yes.
And it'll show everybody that's donated at least $100. It'll tell you who they are, their address, their occupation. It'll let you know those things. And when I was running, I went and I looked at my opponents and I looked at other people's and I noticed who was donating to them, and I followed the money. So I challenge people to do that as well. Go on there and find where money's coming from for candidates. If you notice that a candidate's got a lot of money coming in from builders, from real estate agents, from corporations, they're not giving that money because they believe in you. They're giving you that money as a bribe, basically. They want something in return for giving that money. So follow who's giving candidates money, and you're going to learn a lot more about them than you ever experienced. And again, before I ran for office, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that that's how it worked. And once I ran for office, then I really saw the ins and outs. And a lot of people don't understand. This is not a job that you get hired for. This is a job as a sheriff that you get elected for. It's different than a police chief. Our police chief in Memphis is an appointed position, approved by the city council. Nobody votes on it. Nobody gets to pick her or him. It's selected and it's hired. Where the sheriff, anybody can run, and the people have the choice in who they vote for. The sheriff is the highest ranking guy in the county. They've got a lot of authority, and we're really looking to get somebody in that's not going to be the same old, because I can tell you right now that if we don't elect Brad Less, we're not going to get any changes in the near future. So voting for Brad Less and getting him in to the sheriff's department as the sheriff. And again, let's talk about the courage it takes for you in your current position. You mentioned that you're a lieutenant right now.
Yep.
So you're steps below a chief deputy and a sheriff. You have a lot of people that you report to even get to them. So it takes a lot of courage for you to say, you know what, I'm going to run against my boss's boss's boss. Yep. And I'm going to have the courage to do that. So what drove you and inspired you to say, you know what, I have the courage to do this, even though you know that there could be repercussions later down the line for you, or even currently right now? What gave you the courage to run?
I'm going to say this. I've been in Memphis for 52 years. I worked at the sheriff's office since 1997. Prior to that, I was with the Memphis Police Department in 1995. During those times, I have watched Shelby County decline to such a heavy rate that people are not wanting to live here. And that breaks my heart. I went to high school here. I got friends here. I got family here. You're here. And I feel like I have an obligation based on the knowledge that I've gained from being a deputy sheriff and the things that I've done and the places I've been, that I am quite confident, 100% confident. And if I didn't think I was confident, and I'll tell you this quick story. I went to the Republican Party chair and I asked him, what do you think about me running for sheriff? And he says, well, if I asked him if we had a candidate. And he said, no, we don't have a candidate for sheriff. And I said, well, if you want one, it's me. But I'll tell you this, I'm man enough to know that if there's somebody bigger and badder than me that's running that I support, I'll step away. They could not find one. Not one person stepped up. I ran my election. I won my primary. And here we are. I have 100% that knowing that I am capable of running the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in a positive direction and not into the ground. And it right now it's in the ground. People are not happy with how this county is run, and they're afraid. The deputies are afraid to support me because they're feeling that they're going to be retaliated against. It's not just me. There's deputies out there. Well, I can't tell you I support you because I don't want them to do anything to me. That's ridiculous. You can support who you want to, and I highly recommend that if you do support me, spread the message and let's win. Let's get those votes out there because I 100% believe Shelby County can be flipped. And I'm not talking about flipping a party. I'm talking about flipping from violent, uncontrolled chaos to a secure, safe place for your. I mean, we got businesses. Coletta's is closing. It's not because they can't afford to be here. I mean, we got to understand we got businesses that are closing and leaving Shelby County, and it's because of crime.
I've never heard of an IKEA closing in the history of IKEA, and we had one closing. I loved IKEA. I loved going there. And we've seen a lot of we've seen a lot of Republican sheriffs in Florida take over, and they have a really tough approach on crime. And their crime rates just plummeted because the sheriffs are supporting the citizens.
Yes.
And they're not using liberal policies and politics and trying to please everybody. They're trying to keep everybody safe. And now people are moving to Florida in droves. Right. They're about to cancel property taxes because they're making so much money in surplus from people living there. While on the other hand, Memphis is one of the fastest declining cities in the United States. We're one of the very few cities that actually has a population decline. And it's just like you said, people are scared to live there and they're moving out. They're going to Fayette County. And guess what goes with them? Their tax dollars. Yes. Their kids in our schools. All that stuff goes with them when they move. So we've got to have a sheriff that's going to enforce laws and enforce rules and policies and get the morale of the department up so that people move to Collierville. I got my parents to move out here a few years ago. They moved to Collierville. My brother's going through divorce. I'm trying to convince him to move out here. But again, like I've mentioned, when you Google Memphis or Shelby County, it doesn't come up with positive stories and great things. It comes up with murder and rape and robbery and violent crime and property crime and all these things. And people go, you know what? That might not be somewhere I want to move to.
Well, incarceration works. Your U.S. attorney said that. Jail works. The system works when it's set up to work and not set up to be exploited and set up to be an activist running, oh, well, we're not going to support this crime. We're going to support that crime, but we're really not going to support that crime. We're just going to let people go back out on the streets because they don't deserve to be in jail because jail is inhumane. Jail is not inhumane. Being killed on the street or maimed is inhumane because we did not do our job. So our job is safety, okay? You have to have a disciplinarian in your community, an enforcer of the law, and that's all laws, to make you safe, to make you feel safe. If you don't feel safe and we're not enforcing the laws properly, this is what you get. Shelby County, this is what you get. We have let this go long enough. It has to change. And we've got people that feel too comfortable in the positions that they're in, that they're so bold enough that they can, make a phone call. Just let that person go. It's okay. Just let that person go. And now you look, it's okay. Well, if it's okay to let that person go for a small, you just pull up on a police that are doing their job and you cross that tape because you weren't invited and you get locked up. Now you think all of a sudden that you have that ability to call the chief deputy and go, hey, let me out. I did something that I shouldn't have done, but it's not that bad. Well, that trickles down to the next crime, and then you get caught. And we all know who that is. She shouldn't be here. She should be in jail. So, and the chief deputy and the sheriff allowed that. They did not take the side of the deputy on the courthouse steps. We saw that take
Terrible.
place. It was
Terrible.
horrible to be talked to like that and to be told, you just keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything, but she can just sit there and keep doing what she's doing.
And what that does to morale is just, the esprit de corps just goes down, because when your leadership doesn't have your back, you're not going to care anymore. Why fight it if your leadership doesn't defend you?
And don't stand up and say that you have their back when you don't have their back. You have to show me. You have to show me. And I'm sorry if, there's people out there that think that was okay. That is not okay. But that tells the citizens it's okay to do that to a deputy sheriff. And I'm going to tell you right now, under my leadership, that's not okay. And it won't be tolerated, and you will be dealt with.
Well, the chief deputy has pictures with that person and supports her. And, so we kind of see where those favors come from. And it's not okay now that she's being federally indicted. And, the feds have a 99% conviction rate. So we know that what's going to happen. I remember about 10 years ago, I got in a small fender bender accident in Collierville. A lady just kind of sideswiped me. And within 45 seconds, the Collierville police officer was there after I called the police. I told the cop there was something weird about the lady. She wouldn't give me her driver's license. And about 2 minutes later, she was in handcuffs in the back of the car because she didn't have a driver's license. Now, in Memphis, if you can even get a cop there, God bless you. But then if you get a cop there and they don't have a driver's license, they'll most likely just give them a misdemeanor citation and say, come turn yourself in 30 days. Right. Where Collierville proactively puts people in jail. Just like you said, jail is a great incentive to not do crime. And it is a great, it can rehabilitate people, and it can get people off of drugs, and it can punish people and let them know that there are consequences for your illegal actions. And that's why I'm supporting you for sheriff. And I'm hoping that everybody watching here is supporting you as well. And we can get the message out that Brad Less for sheriff is the person that's going to make sure Shelby County stays on the right path. It gets on the right path that it's fallen off of over the last 4 to 8 years. And we're really hoping that, come election, you get out, you vote. So what are you going to do? What's day one when you take over as sheriff? What's day one?
Day one for me is not going to be a celebration. Day one for me is going to be work. And we're going to sit down and we're going to look at the staff that I'm going to bring in. We're going to look at the current policies and procedures and operations of the jail, the law enforcement, the courtroom security, all the contracts that we have. And look, even the well path that's down there is ridiculous. I mean, we're not here to turn people away from jail, but we have to be good stewards of tax dollars. So we need to look at spending. I'm going to ask immediately for if we have proven, if the county commission has proven to not keep our buildings functioning, then I'm going to ask for that money to be put in my budget. You can't do it. You're not doing it. You need to give it to me so I can do it. We need to raise this ridiculous $50,000. You have to vote to spend anything over $50,000. We can't buy pencils for $50,000. The price of everything has gone up. $50,000 doesn't even buy you a car. So you're telling me that if I need to buy a car or I need to buy a piece of equipment, I have to go to the county commission and explain to a person that's never been a deputy before, never understood why law enforcement needs this equipment, of why we need the equipment. I think that's ridiculous. I need to be able to do my job. What you've done is you've handcuffed law enforcement. You've handcuffed the sheriff to say, basically you're defunding the police is what you're doing, to have to vote on that. Raise that bar well above what the average cost of a car is or anything like that. I mean, I need to be able to purchase. Now, if I'm purchasing $1 million piece of equipment, then yeah, we can sit down and talk about how many times it's going to take to vote on this equipment. And I'll even bring you pictures and show you what one looks like and what it's going to do when it gets on the streets. All right. But when it comes to just buying little things, drones and new things that we're going to put out on the streets, equipment costs more money now. They still haven't raised that bar. That's ridiculous. So
yeah, it's definitely crazy. And as a sheriff, as an elected official, you should be given a budget and an authority to spend a certain amount of money, regardless of, the county commission approving it or not. Like you said, you want $1 million Hellcat vehicle. Yeah, that's something we could talk about. But when when deputies are driving broken down vehicles and, it's summertime and they don't even have air conditioning in them, there's a lot of things that need to get done, and we need to cut the red tape so that these things can get done in a timely manner.
Well, I mean, let's talk about firearms for a minute. Okay. So, why do I have to explain what my firearm choice is and why I'm choosing that firearm? I'm telling you that that's what I need. If I want a specific type of weapon with a specific type of sight on it and a specific type of round on it, and I want it to do these things, that's all I need to explain to you. But when you start asking me questions about why I need that, well, this is for a law enforcement reason. So I should be able to submit that. You should be able to get it to me and understand that, or give me the power, ability, and the means that I have the knowledge of the weapon choice that I want my officers to carry to be the most safe in the community, and to know that when they have to pull that weapon, that it's going to either save their life or the life of somebody else. And
well, it's wild that people that aren't in that position think that they know better.
right.
And I think some people on the commission, they question why you have bulletproof vests,
That's
why
right.
you have blue lights, why do you have so many bullets? They don't understand anything about the job or the risks or the dangers. Like you mentioned earlier, when someone calls 911, it's not to come pet a puppy. It's because someone broke in their house, somebody robbed them, somebody is actively fighting. They are dangerous situations that 99% of Americans never want to deal with and never want to see. And you get called to it 10 times a day. You have to be better equipped. You have to be better trained. I'm an advocate that every law enforcement officer should be a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, so that they get some hands-on experience and hands-on training, so that they know how to actually fight and they don't have to just shoot somebody off every time. But when that's the tool you have, that's the tool that you've got to use. And we've got to trust that our sheriff knows what's best. And when Brad Less is elected sheriff, he's going to make sure that our deputies have the tools that they need to be successful, safe, and go home at night. And more importantly, keep the citizens safe.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and like we mentioned, I mean, there's certain things, what we're going to do on day one is going to carry over to 2, 3, and on. So reviewing policies and procedures, getting rid of the fluff and unhandcuffing law enforcement to do their job. All right. And I'm not talking about over policing a community. We're not talking about over policing it. We're not talking about, putting that thumb on our citizens. We're talking about just enforcing the laws. That's it. Being visible, being in the community. And I'm not talking, about just pulling everybody over and writing everybody tickets. That's not what this is about. But right now, you're not safe. I mean, I've still seen cars running around with fake tags on them to this day, and they'll drive right by a police car. Nobody does anything about it. And we are, as detectives, are not encouraged to stop cars. You don't have a body camera. You don't have you don't have all the blue lights on your cars. So we've restricted our officers, our deputy sheriffs, of not stopping cars. You're told not to do that. You're not encouraged to do that. You're not encouraged to go out and do your job if you're riding home or whatever and you see something. I mean, I've done it before. An egregious violation of the law right in front of me, and I let that go. How does that make me look? How does that make me feel? But if I do it, I get disciplined. So I'm looking at we got to unhandcuff our officers. This is get the activists out of the police side. Understand that if you're going to violate the law under my leadership, you are going to not enjoy your stay in jail. Jail will not be fun. You're going to spend time in jail. It's going to be locked down. We're going to stop the drug flow in the jail. We're going to stop the employees from being corrupt. And it's all about how you hire and how you recruit and how you pay them. That all plays a part. We've got to be the standard. You have to let us be the standard, not follow the standard from somebody else. Let us set the standards.
Community policing is so important. When I first moved to this area, I lived right behind Southwind High School on Hacks and Shelby. And it was a kind of a newer neighborhood. It was a new house. Nobody had ever lived there. And the first day I moved in, a sheriff's deputy drove by and noticed that people were in the house, and he stopped and knocked on my door because he wanted to make sure. He'd never seen anybody in that house before, and he just wanted to make sure we were supposed to be in that house. That's community policing. That's understanding what's going on. That's knowing your neighborhood. That's having the knowledge to say, this is something different. I've never seen anyone in that house before. Now I do. Let me check it out and make sure everything is okay. Yeah. Nowadays, that just doesn't happen. And community policing is probably one of the most vital, important things that we can have.
You know, one of the things that I did to help out the community and the county was I developed a program that dealt with the houses that were obtained by the land bank because of not paying taxes. Most of them were rundown houses that people couldn't sell. They just let the taxes go on it, and then the land bank acquires the house. At that point in time, it's riddled with homeless, it's riddled with squatters, people that are coming in. There's nefarious activity going on there. So what I did was I got with the land bank when I was with the district attorney general's office, and we developed a sign that said, no trespassing. Shelby County owns this property, had a star on the notice, and that gave police the free reign to go in without a search warrant because the county owns the building. And then if it didn't have windows, it didn't have doors, the holes were knocked in the walls, and there was the air conditioner was stolen and removed, then we put that on a list to be destroyed and knocked down, and then told them sell the property, get rid of it. The land is no longer, it doesn't have a structure on it. Somebody can buy land and put a house there. But that right there put us to where we could destroy I think they said 5 to 10 houses because of the cost that it made of the county to have to take these houses down, the equipment, the trucks, the disposal of the material, because they couldn't just leave it in a big pile. We allowed our deputies to go in. Well, you found drugs, you found prostitution, you found missing children, you found all kinds of things in those houses. So, you know, building relationships is where I'm going with this. It works, and that's community policing. Building the relationship with the community. To if you see something, you say something. Pushing that narrative out. Using billboards, just like in DeSoto County. Don't come to Memphis, Tennessee if you're going to commit crime. If you're committing crime here, you best leave, because we're going to come after you. And that message needs to be strong and not some weak, you know, it's okay. You just don't have a tag on your car. Well, okay, well, go get a tag on your car. It'll be okay. No, it's not okay. I put tags on my car. So, and you put tags on your car. And the citizens that are watching put tags on their cars. So you need to be held accountable. Now, let's try to help these people get the tags on their cars. Let's help you get your driver's license. And if you have warrants, I'll tell you this other story. Back years ago, we have never done this since, but it's called Operation Safe Surrender. Operation Safe Surrender was if you had a warrant, no holds barred, you come bring yourself to the church that we're operating in, and we're going to have deputy sheriffs there ready to process your warrant, a judge that you can see right then and there to find out if we need to take you into custody or not, if you're wanted from out of state for whatever violent crime. But we allowed you to come in, and if it was just a driver's license warrant, we had people from the driver's license testing center there or the county clerk's office to help you, or the Tennessee Highway Patrol was there, or whatever it was to help you get what you need. Believe it or not, we have never done that since the last time I did it. And I was a patrolman. So I've been a sergeant and a lieutenant well past 2013, if that tells you anything.
Wow.
And that was a huge success.
Yeah. And I hope under your leadership as sheriff, we get to do more things like that. Because if not, they're just going to keep riding dirty. And what happens when you don't have a driver's license? You probably don't have car insurance. No. So when you hit a family, there's no way for these people to recoup their money. And it drives up insurance rates for everybody around here because you have to have uninsured motorists. And they know in Shelby County, there's a large number of people that drive without a license, without insurance, without registration, stolen tags. whatever it is. So I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and I don't want to keep you here too long. So I just want to thank you so much for having the courage to run for sheriff. It's such an important position in any county that you're in. The Shelby County Sheriff is a person that's going to influence the entire state of Tennessee. We are looked at, because we are the biggest county, the biggest population for a county. We're looked at as the leaders, and I'm looking forward to you being the leader of that department and the sheriff's department, and all the changes that you're going to make for the better for all of the citizens. And we've got to get out. We've got to vote. We've got to make sure we're registered to vote. Early voting starts July 17th. Now, remember, you can vote at any polling station for early voting. Just please make sure that you get the right ballot. Sometimes if you live in Collierville and you work in Memphis and you go to a polling station in Memphis, I've seen and I've heard stories that people got the wrong ballots. So make sure before you cast the vote, you look and you make sure that if you're in Collierville, you've got the Collierville races on there as well. If you live in Bartlett, Germantown, wherever it is, you've got the correct ballot, because once you cast that ballot, you can't do it again. Brad Less will be on everybody's election for Shelby County. So any Shelby County person that's voting, Brad Less will be a choice. Please make sure you do it. Now, I did get one question from Erica Houston.
Yes.
That they would want to know about a public debate. Justin Johnson also asked that as well. If he would do a debate, would a debate with Chief Deputy Buckner, would that be something you would want to do?
Absolutely. Because it's going to show that you're not prepared, that he can't do the job. He's been doing it for the last 3 years as a chief deputy. And you see where we're at. When the Memphis Safe Task Force was brought in, you could tell he was against it from day one. He didn't want it here. Now you want to take credit for something that you didn't want to begin with. You know, we're dealing with activists. You are siding with activists against, fighting crime. You're not fighting crime. You're not spending tax dollars wisely. You still have a failing jail. You still have all these bad things happening in Shelby County. So why don't you sit down and explain that to the citizens and explain that to me? Answer the hard questions instead of like, well, I'm not going to answer that budget question anymore. Stop asking budget questions. I mean, you can go back and look at my several interviews that I've done with the social media, with the newscasters and on social media as well. I'm all for public debate, because you're going to find that a lot of the material in the last couple of interviews that I've done have been repeated by that side, that they're taking my material that I'm saying and putting it in their own mouths. But the one thing that they won't do, they're not going to force an immigration law, because they're not doing it now.
July. Well, they've been open about that as well.
They have been open about it. He has been open about it. He's let people out of jail because if it's happening, it's happening under his watch.
And which for a constitutional officer, a sheriff is a constitutional officer, and it is a violation of federal law to not work with ICE and work with our federal immigration to just let these people back on the streets that have no name, no social security number, and basically can commit crimes with immunity because you don't know who they are.
That's right. Well, and the other thing is state laws changed July 1st. Where's those notifications at? Where's the warning to Shelby County that we got new laws? The news media put them out, but I haven't seen the first thing from the sheriff's office. Your leaders, your sheriff leaders, your law enforcement folks haven't put the first thing out about, hey, we got new laws here. You better start acting right. These are what's changing for you, and this is what could happen to you. And the difference between a D felony and an E felony, and explaining, and that's part of my, let's just say this. My platform is education, enforcing the laws, fixing this broken jail, and rehabilitation of the repeat offender. There's 4 main topics that I'm going after. Okay. And that's right there is what's going to make Shelby County a safe place to live in. Because when we don't enforce the law, you get violent crime. When we don't have education of our citizens, they don't even know they can vote for a sheriff. They don't even know what laws we have in place. I think some of them think that we don't even have laws that you need tags on your cars, that you can just print it off online and paste it on there and change it with a marker and it's okay. So But we haven't seen anything from our sheriff's office, command staff on why that's illegal and what we're going to do to stop it. You're not seeing any public service messages about, what happens when you violate the crimes, you violate the laws that are supporting good safety and good order and peace in the community. You're seeing about how we can pet puppies and make it all better. Well, that's not what's going to happen out here.
Yep, it's definitely true. I haven't seen anything from the sheriff's department about new laws that every year take effect July 1st, things that are voted in. And it's very important that people do understand these things. And I hope you do educate. I'm really looking forward to casting my vote for you. I'll as soon as I can on early voting. I always try to vote early myself, even as a candidate. When I ran, I understood that voting early is very important. You don't want to stand in long lines on election day. So get out and vote early. Encourage your friends. Let them know you voted. Let them know you voted for Brad Less for sheriff, because you actually want to see a change, and you want to see the Memphis Safe Task Force supported, and you want to see their efforts be maintained. Because if they leave and we keep the status quo, we're just going to fall right back into what we did before. But if you elect Brad Less, that's not going to happen. So any closing words you want to leave our audience?
Yes. Absolutely. So this is a second chance, people. This is a second chance to get it right. You don't have another chance after the second one. There won't be a third. So you have been offered a second chance by the President of the United States and the congressional leaders and your state senators and your Republican leadership in the county have seen that Shelby County can be saved. And by order of the president, they brought in the Memphis Safe Task Force and the National Guard. But we all know that those deployments end. Yes, we've always partnered with our federal agencies, and we're not going to stop. But they don't need to be on our streets policing. That's not their job. Their job is to go after federal criminals violating federal laws. It is our job to go after criminals in violation of state and county ordinances. So, leaving that with you, let's capitalize on this second chance. If you continue to vote for what you have now, then you are wasting this second chance, and we're going to be in pretty bad shape. So I wholeheartedly recommend that you tell 10 of your friends to tell 10 of those friends. Speak my name at the loudest places that you can speak it, from the highest mountains you can yell it. That Brad Less, that's me, running for Shelby County Sheriff, is your best choice in this election. And look, I'm on your side. I'm on the side of the good people of Shelby County, and I need your support in order to get this job done. And we don't have a lot of time, so we have to be spreading the message as far and as wide as we can. Thank you for having me on your show. And hopefully we've got a lot of listeners out there that can spread the word and get my campaign even more so moving in the positive direction. And it is already moving in a positive direction, as you've seen at the last event. We had over 80 in attendance. Judge Joe Brown, I didn't pay for that endorsement. Judge endorsed me because we're friends. And he wholeheartedly believes that I will be your next sheriff. And I have the great ability, knowledge, and your best interests in mind when it comes to running this office.
And well, we're definitely looking forward to it. And we've heard, publicly that he will debate Chief Deputy Buckner, and that's definitely something that we should tune into, and we can really hear their ideas. Don't follow a political party, follow the ideas. We've got the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. Please, before you leave today, click on that. It'll take you right to elect Brad Less for Shelby County Sheriff, right to his website. You can find out ways to help, to spread the word, to donate, to get a yard sign, whatever it takes. If you need a yard sign, I'll drive it to your house. Let me know. We'll deliver them. Whatever it takes to get that message out that Brad Less will be the next sheriff of Shelby County, but we can't do it alone. We can't do it without you. We've got to have you on our side to make this happen. This is your future. This is not a county commission seat from somebody that you'll never hear from. This is from the top law enforcement man in the land that we're going to elect, and we're going to get into that office as sheriff. We're going to see amazing things. Brad, we appreciate you so much for being on, and we look forward to being there when you're inaugurated.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you go. Again, Brad Less will be the next sheriff of Shelby County with your help. Make sure you scan that QR code so that you can get right to his website. Early voting starts July 17th. So find any polling station in Shelby County. You can vote during early voting on election day. You must go to your polling station. So make sure you know exactly where that is. You can look that up online by putting your address. They do change every once in a while, so it might not be the same place you voted last time. So make sure you have that knowledge. Get to elect Brad Less online. Look up those opportunities to help. We have a chance to really shape our future. Thank you for everybody. Kayla, thank you for coming on and joining. We'll get you a yard sign as well. And we want to make sure everyone knows that Brad Less is the man that's going to win. Brad Less is the man for the job, and we're looking forward to it. Until next time, thank you guys for joining.